Okay, here's some more practice problems for the Chapter 5 test. The first one is find the exact value of each expression. We'll have about 4 of these problems to do. The first one is the cosine of 5 pi over 6 times the cosine of 2 pi over 3 minus the sine of 5 pi over 6 and then times the sine of 2 pi over 3. Now you have to recognize this as cosine, cosine, sine, sine, so it looks like it's the cosine formula, and it's actually looks like it would be the sum because we have the opposite sign. We change this, all right? So if this is negative, we really are talking about the sum. So this ends up being something like the cosine of 5 pi over 6 plus 2 pi over 3. Then we want to add these up so we can get one angle, so we have to have a common denominator. That would be 6. So I multiply the top and the bottom here by 2. And I end up with the cosine of 5 pi over 6. Sorry about that. Plus 4 pi over 6. 5 plus 4 is 9, so I get the cosine of 9 pi over 6, and that reduces to be 3 pi over 2. And there's a couple ways to figure this out. We can either use our graph of our cosine function, which I like to do. This is y, this is x, this is 1, minus 1, and that's going to be pi, so this would be pi over 2. This would be 3 pi over 2. So you can see the cosine of 0 is there, or you can use your unit circle, y and x, and you know 3 pi over 2 is all the way around here to 270 degrees, and the coordinates there would be 0, negative 1, so the cosine is the first coordinate, that's 0. So there's a couple ways to figure that out using your unit circle. Okay. And the next one was the tangent of 8 pi over 15 minus the tangent of pi over 5, all over 1 plus the tangent of 8 pi over 15 times the tangent of pi over 5. Now this looks like our tangent formula, so you have to be familiar with these sum and difference formulas for sine, cosine, and tangent, and this is the difference formula because this sign matches. This doesn't change like the cosine, but this matches. So this is going to end up being the tangent of this angle minus this angle. Okay, so that's the tangent of 8 pi over 15 minus pi over 5. And then again, we want to get a common denominator as before, so the least common denominator will be 15, so I multiply the top and bottom here by 3. And I end up with 8 pi over 15 minus 3 pi over 15. 8 minus 3 is 5, so I end up with a tangent of 5 pi over 15. That reduces to be pi over 3, and the tangent of pi over 3 is just the square root of 3. So again, make sure you're familiar with those sum and difference formulas. All right. Now we got a couple more. Now this is the cosine of 78, cosine of 18 degrees, plus the sine of 78 times the sine of 18, and this looks like cosine, cosine, sine, sine. And again, this will be the difference because we use the opposite sign for the cosine. That's going to end up being the cosine of 78 minus 18. 78 minus 18. Remember, we reverse these signs in the cosine formula. Different SIGN. And 78 minus 18 is 60, and the cosine of 60 is 1/2. Okay? And the fourth one in this group, we have the sine of 78 degrees, cosine of 12. Again, this is sine, cosine, cosine, sine, so this looks like the sine. And we use the same SIGN, so that's going to be positive. And that's going to be 78 degrees plus 12 degrees. And that's going to be just the sine of 90 degrees. And what's the sine of 90 degrees? Again, if you look at your unit circle, that's one way to do it. 90 degrees is over here, and the coordinate is 0, 1, cosine, sine, so that would be 1. Okay, so you'll see some problems like that.